Hey everyone, it's Jeff Fisher of High School Football America, heading out of the lower 48 to Alaska to be specific. We're going to talk about one of the top teams in the state over the last 8, 9, 10 years, and one of the best coaches all time in the state of Alaska. The guy on the other side of the box there is Galen Brantley, the head coach at Soldotna. The 8-time defending champs, and he fought through some technical difficulties to join us here today to talk about some Stars football. Thanks for taking the time, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, let's kind of familiarize this, everybody out there watching this right now with where Soldotna is. I guess the easiest way I could say it is you're on the Kenai Peninsula, southwest of Anchorage, because you give the people a little geographical lesson about where you're located and football in and around that area on the peninsula.
Well, you kind of hit it there. We're about a 2.5-hour drive, southwest Anchorage on the Kenai Peninsula. Around Cook Inlet through a mountain pass. It's a beautiful drive to get down here. We're a small community, 5,000-6,000 people in the town. The high school is about 620 kids. Really dependent on the Kenai River that runs through town, whether it is through tourism, sport fishing, and then 11 miles away is Cook Inlet. And we have a lot of families that are commercial fishing for salmon, and then other families that are dependent on the oil industry. And so that's kind of what makes us tick in Soldotna.
And I've always had it on my bucket list. One of these years, I'm going to pry myself out of being down here and going up there and watching an entire high school football season in Alaska. That's kind of one of my bucket list things. And obviously, I'll stop in and check out your program. When you hear 8 championships in a row, what goes through your mind? That's a pretty heavy number, even in a small state. That's still a great number.
Well, it doesn't seem real to me. I don't think we ever started out trying to win 8 in a row. In fact, we were runners up quite a few times before we finally won and broke through and got that done. But the honest truth is, we just wanted to do things the right way and to develop a good culture. And it's just it's gone on way longer than we could ever imagine.
Yeah, it's amazing. You guys had that long win streak there too. I can't remember, was it 60 or you almost hit 60? I forget what it was. But you had that going.
We set our state record at 59 wins.
59, yeah, just one shy of 60. Tell me a little bit about, and the viewers a little bit about football in Alaska. I've had the opportunity to talk to some of your colleagues in the profession. They're very happy with the advancement of high school football in the state. Obviously, it's a huge state, and getting around makes scheduling tough and all that. But how would you classify for the viewers that have no clue about what Alaska high school football is about?
I think one of the things that, when I think of football in Alaska, I think of all of the adversity kids go through in order to play the game. We've had, 15-hour ferry rides each way to get to a conference game. We've gotten to planes and flown. We drive 10 hours. This year we have a Fairbanks school on our schedule. We'll take a 10-hour bus ride there and back. And our kids don't really know any different. They're just so resilient. And I've got friends who live in inner city areas and they take 15-minute bus rides to, 20-minute bus rides everywhere. And I kind of chuckle a little bit. And it's like, our kids are willing to absolutely do anything just to play this game. It's the best game on earth.
No, there's no doubt about that. So take us back to when you took over the program. As you said, you don't win 8 just by happenstance. Something's right there. You talked about your culture, and that's obviously coach speak at this point. But what are some of the things that you did right at the beginning when you took over as the HC that kind of set the tone, or at least set the bar for what was about to happen over the past decade?
I think the culture, a lot of it was already in place. There was a coach that took the program over in 1980 when the school first opened, that was a Baptist minister from southern Texas that really laid a strong foundation. And when he retired, he was the second winningest coach in state history. And so there was a really good foundation there. And then one of my college teammates from North Dakota had taken the program over and had really started to continue the foundation that he set in place. And really, I just picked the reins up. And so I'm not in a position where I'll take credit for, for the culture that's in the program. I just picked it up and tried not to mess it up, and have been lucky enough to have been surrounded with phenomenal assistant coaches, in Phil Leck, Eric Pomerlow. I have guys that are by my side that could easily be head coaches at other schools that work their tails off, and it's not a one-man show. I get way more credit than I deserve. They're guys that put a lot of time in to make our program what it is.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's those assistants that don't get to do these interviews, but those are the guys that are putting in all those grunt hours. You talked about adversity, kind of year in and year out. Last year, a lot more adversity than normal. You guys never got to a playoff. You did play a season. What was that like, and what did you learn about yourself, the kids, and the program going through COVID?
Last year was rough. I mean, it was. We started off our summer and our workouts were, 10 feet apart on cones. And so I loaded up a snow machine trailer, pulled it around with a gator, and had smash balls and barbells and kettlebells on it. And my youngest son, I would put him behind the gator, and I would, it was like bell and hay. I would dump everything off of the cones and pick it up every day and wash everything down in between the groups that would go. And so it started off kind of unusual, obviously. And then we got into the season, and it looked like we weren't going to have one because we got shut down 2 weeks before the season. We go out of the red. They're like, you're going to have a season. So we got really excited. We practiced, got all the way through our first scrimmage and went into red again, and they shut us down again. And so then we're back to like our summer workouts, 10 feet apart, no football. And we go out of red. It was just yo-yo the entire season. Then they tell us we can't play anybody off the peninsula, and we're the largest school on the peninsula. And it's hard enough for us to find games against teams our own size, much less teams that are in a division down. And so we were fortunate enough that those teams were willing to play us. And, they weren't necessarily great competitive games for our kids, but they got to play. We only got 4 games out of our entire season. And then the state association decided, well, we're going to have a playoff. And then it was like, wow, okay, we're going to get to play somebody. And the team that we were supposed to play in the playoffs got COVID, and that game was canceled. And then the next week, they went ahead and canceled the whole thing. And so, we had to sit there with those kids and tell them that the entire season was over after they'd got their hopes up. And it was pretty rough, especially considering our 2019 team. I started 22 seniors. And so the kids that I had with me last year, there were about 15 or 16 seniors that sat behind a group of kids for 3 years to play one season, and it got yanked from them. And it was pretty emotional. I won't lie. It was really, really hard on us because we wanted those kids to have their opportunity. And there were some talented football players. Yeah. And it just never materialized. And so they left, our building with just something that felt really unfinished. Sure.
No doubt about that. There's no words to kind of comment on what happened last year. And that's the sad one, all of those senior classes. One of the things I've noticed from afar is you guys have solid numbers, right? You're a small school, as you said, about 600 kids, but it seems like the program has good numbers. Is it one of those things where if you're a young man in the town and Soldotna growing up, one day you want to wear that star in your helmet?
I think so. We have other programs in our building that are successful. Our track program, our whole football staff coaches track too, and we won both region titles this last year, and we're top 3 in the largest school division. Where there's schools of over 2,000, our school has 600, and so we do have some other programs that do certainly have success, but in our community, I think that. Certainly there's a draw for young boys to be a part of our program. I think it helps having, not only myself and my other 2 varsity assistants in building. One teaches weightlifting, the other one teaches science. And then I have, a couple other assistants, and so in a small school, the probability of having like 5 teachers in building, and so we get a lot of kids out. We'll have 80, 90 kids out for football. And I think that's fairly unusual for a school of 600, but For us, I mean, getting them out, that's a huge part, and making it something they want to be a part of, and that's special to them. That's certainly a big part of it. And I'm fortunate enough. I'm a graduate. I'm an alumni, and so the tradition is very important to us, to our community, and I think you've kind of hit it on the head. There's young guys that walking around. I've got a picture of my son now plays for Dickinson State University in North Dakota. His 1-year-old picture is sitting on a star holding a football, hanging in my hallway right now. So
gotta love it.
It's been big for our family.
Yeah, and I'll talk about you coaching your kids in a second. But one of the things I also notice is there are a lot of names. I mean, we were in a small town, right? That tends to happen. I would assume that if you're a family member that was part of, say, the streak, whether it's the win streak or the championship streak, there's a little pressure there in the family, right, to make sure those streaks don't go away. Is there pressure of being a star?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of pressure. We finished that 59 game streak and haven't lost since, and so now we're on a 22 game win streak. It seems like we're always streaking. I think it's probably like the 5th time we've been over 20 in a row.
Nice.
So I think a streak is, we don't really. I mean, it's not something we really even talk about. Even when we were, on that 59 game win streak, we kind of put it on the back burner really for kids until it got to where it couldn't be ignored anymore. It was a big step breaking it because we had tied it with another school and shared it with another school. Breaking it was huge, and then it kind of like got forgotten about until I think we got up to number 2 in the country, and then we started getting some national media attention over it, and then it was kind of unavoidable. You couldn't get away from it.
Yeah, people like myself putting it right there for all to see. Right there for you. And you're not afraid, as you said before, the schools in the peninsula are a little bit smaller. You're not afraid to challenge the program and go up and play big. I think you even took was it a couple of years ago? You traveled to California, I believe. You're not afraid to take on the best, right? That's your.
No. That's the one thing I will tell people about our streak is we probably played up a division over those years, a quarter of our games. And so we've never hidden from anybody. In fact, we lost the streak to a school of 1,900 kids. Mm-hmm. And again, we're 600. So, and it was it was a quarterback sneak with 1 second left on the clock to beat us. It wasn't like they came in and stomped us. We've gone out and played a school that at Crater High School and Oregon that ended up being a 5A runner-up, and played them. We went down to California and played Christian High School out of El Cajon, who was a 10-time CISC champion, and beat them. And so we definitely have not hidden. And I think we've been able to prove that our Alaska football can play with, with football along the West Coast at least. That we do have some talented football players, that we do have kids who go on and play college football, and it is a good brand of football in Alaska.
Yeah, and for people that want to know what kind of offense you run, I probably should just stop on the word run, right?
Yeah, we
run.
We certainly love to run the football. I'm an old history major, and so I like the old stuff, and we certainly are put a premium on running the football, controlling the clock, controlling field position. We're almost a little bit of an offense from the 1940s, but our kids identify with it. We love it. It puts a lot of pressure on teams that think that you can still get tough, move the football in this sport without breaking a sweat by throwing 5-yard outs all day. And so we like to do it a little bit differently.
Yeah, I love that. And of course, you have the country thinking it's snowing there right now, so they probably figure that's why you run the ball. It's snowing in July, right? You mentioned your son playing, collegiately, and before I get to that question, I think, was it 4 maybe that came off of the 18 team that went on to college? Because I would think a lot of people wouldn't think about players coming out of Alaska and going to play football. So what's that like? I mean, is there a lot of work that goes into finding spots for the kids at the collegiate level? What's that like?
Yeah, it is a little bit of work. I think our kids, it is still an under recruited place. Some of us rely on our connections. I have an assistant coach who was an alumni from Dickinson State University. where two of our players ended up, including my oldest son. I had another young man who went to a junior college in Gila River, Arizona, who is going to end up with my son and our other player there at Dickinson State. I have another player that ended up from that team that went to Colorado Mesa. Most of what we have in Alaska are the NAIA Division II caliber players. I mean, if you want to kind of fit it, and I think having coached in North Dakota, I think it's really similar to that upper Midwest. The North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming. If you really want to figure out what football is really like caliber wise in Alaska, it'd be similar to the type of athletes that come out of those places. We do have some elite kids. I know that there's the Brandon Pile that's playing at USC, and there's an offensive lineman at Oregon State. There's an offensive lineman at UNLV, and so we do have a receiver this year that signed at Fresno State. We do have those types of athletes that come out of our state, but the overwhelming majority of our kids really fit into that Division II NAIA. And so, as far as recruiting goes, we've had a statewide football camp in Alaska every year, the All-Alaska Football Camp. And, I think that in a normal year, this was not a normal year this year, but on a normal year, there's probably 400 kids and 40 college coaches from across the country that come to one place at one time. And, we'll have kids that will walk out of there with 4 offers, and so it's a big event for our kids to get seen, and I don't think that happens really in any other state. You're a little bit more visible. So
yeah, no, I get it. Let's talk about coaching your kids. Then we'll get into this year's program. I guess there's been a couple that have had the last name Brantley that you've had the honor to coach, right? What's that like? You're a good dad coach or a good coach dad, whatever it may be.
I'm not sure. My son is upstairs, and so I might. But it's probably, without question, my biggest honor is of having the opportunity to coach my son. I have another son that is an 8th grader that'll be coming through my program in a year. And, to be able to have him as like my ball boy as a 5-year-old and be on my sideline and, be running all over the place. And then, to work his way through my program and to be successful and to, become the young guy he is and to be able to go on and continue to play and to have the love for the game has been pretty special to watch him find the same kind of enjoyment and the same kind of love for it that I did. And, I would never lie to anybody that's got any coaches that have a young son. It's not always going to be easy. They are going to challenge you. There are going to be people out there that no matter how hard your son works or how good they get, they're always going to think that something was given to them. But I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah.
I mean, to have had the opportunity to share that experience with my son, it probably keeps some coaches in it longer than they normally would be. This profession eats up people, but when they started getting close to you, you want to do a good job. You want it to be a program that your own son feels special being a part of, and so it definitely was a motivating factor.
Yeah, no, that's neat. So, like I said earlier, there's pressure being a star, right? So, give us some of the names of the kids on this program this year that you're expecting big things of to make sure 8 becomes 9 when it comes to consecutive championships.
We have some of our senior leaders, Dylan Dahlgren. He was a #1 discus thrower in the state last year and placed in both the shot and disc, and is a real good in the weight room. He was offered by a couple of schools, Morningside and Dickinson at our camp this last week, and we expect big things out of him. He's probably a solid defensive end at the next level as a college type player. Noah Harper is an outside linebacker for us. Again, these are seniors that have been through our program. Noah is a phenomenal player, very good on the defensive side, plays tight end for us as well. Brock Wilson is he just took the award as the number 2 linebacker at the camp. He's about 220-pound middle linebacker who's a thumper, and will play a little bit of halfback for us as well. Harley Johnson is a young guy that I had. He had some cousins that were a part of our program that were very good players, and has been hanging around our program lifting weights since he was probably 9 or 10 years old, just following us around. And so he's phenomenal. He's a big 300-pound center and just does a great job for us. Trying to think of my other seniors here. I don't want to miss anybody.
Yeah, you'll get in trouble, Coach.
I'll get in trouble if I do. But it's just been it's been a great group. You know, we've gotten great leadership out of those guys. They've just been phenomenal. You know, they're resilient. You know, we're not having to fight to get kids in the weight room. I think that's the one nice thing is, you know, we do all of our summer program like everybody else. We're lifting and running 4 days a week all summer long. And, you know, those guys have done a phenomenal job of getting people there and making sure they're working. And, you know, it's made a big difference. And the other one I forgot now that my mind is coming back around is Caden Spees. He's another one, started for nose guard for us last year and is going to play both ways this year. Another lineman, had an older brother in our program, and you know, we expect big things out of him as well this year.
Coach, really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you for all the things that you do for the kids up there. Thanks for hanging in last year. We all learned some lessons and all that, but it's been fun. Like I said, watching you from afar. It'll be fun to see what you guys do again this year, going for number 9. And again, thank you so much for taking the time. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on.